And well, let us move our GST discussion on to this exports. And before we move on further on this discussion on exports, and let me once again tell our viewers, you are watching discussion on this GST, and we have with us in our studios our Additional Commissioner of Service Tax, Shri.Anand Kumar, who is the GST Additional Commissioner of this Hyderabad, and he is here to answer all your queries. In case if you feel like calling, you may call our number 044 477 99915. That is 044 477 99915. Those are the that is the number that you can call us, and you can always put your question straight away to the Additional Commissioner Anand. Additional Commissioner who is with us. So Anand sir, so tell us, let us move on to these exports. How are these exports treated under this GST law? Can you tell us something about?
These exports have been brought under, you have mentioned, the rates to start with zero rate. Zero rate means, no rate, no tax. And you may ask me, then what would happen to those inputs or input services that have gone into those products or services, which suffered tax. Now, the exporter would be entitled to claim refund of that unutilized input credit in case he doesn't have any domestic sales or domestic business.
Right.
And government has gone one step ahead and declared that 90% of that refundable amount will be deposited in the account of the exporter online. 90% of the refundable amount will be deposited in the account of the exporter within 7 days, within a week.
What is that zero rate supply? Something that you were talking about, that zero rated supply?
Yeah, zero rate is nothing but supposing you are exporting, let's say, this glass. So this doesn't suffer any duty. This doesn't suffer any tax.
Right.
Is as good as no tax. But you may still ask, sir, why you have mentioned it as zero? You should have exempted it.
Right.
Yeah, we have not exempted it for the simple reason.
Okay.
Like sometimes what happens is, the businessmen in the mining sector, some time back, when there was more demand for iron ore in China. They were exporting this iron ore left, right and center, and our domestic, steel producers were put to hardship. They had to import. When our own mine, our own iron ore, going at a dead cheap price. So to arrest that, government, you may remember, started levying 10%, if I remember correctly, export tax duty. We used to say duty at that time.
Okay.
So the government has kept that provision.
Okay. So this is just to raise the price and bring value to the goods that are being produced in the country, or the raw material that is available in the country.
Yeah, that's one point. Another point is, depending on demand and supply, if we found that our raw material is going away abroad, landing in foreign shores, then government may impose certain amount of tax on these goods which would be exported. Right. That's why the zero rate, the concept of zero rate. And also, when your final product is not taxable, you may not be entitled to avail input tax credit. Right. So government also wanted to protect that whatever tax suffered inputs that have gone into the products which were being exported, that input tax credit they would be entitled to avail and also claim refund
at the end
on export.
On export. And there are certain goods and services that are exempted on the GST.
Yes.
What are those? Can you just explain?
Yeah. Basically, all the agricultural products, which are unbranded, basically no processing, non-processed or unprocessed, you may call that, they are exempted from GST. Educational institutions.
Well, sorry to interrupt you, Anandji. We'll go and we'll continue the discussion. Which are the services that are exempted? We have a caller online,
Yeah.
Mr. Anand from Amberpet. And Anand?
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, you may put your question straight away to the additional commissioner who is there in our studios.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon,
Good
Anandji.
afternoon, sir. So, my completed my MBA finance, completed recent MBA and income. So, what are the US opportunities that which I want to know, sir?
Yeah.
Okay,
Can you reduce? Can you move yourself a little bit away from that, from your mouthpiece? It is very much reverberating, Anand. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
अबे हिंदी में
What are the opportunities for in the GST, sir? That's right.
हिंदी में बात करना चाहते हैं?
Hello.
Hello?
हिंदी
Yeah.
में हिंदी में बात करना चाहते हैं तो हिंदी में बात करना चाहते हैं तो बोलिए बोलिए, कोई चिंता नहीं, मैं हिंदी में आपको रिप्लाई दे दूंगा, उत्तर दे दूंगा।
आपने
बताइए बताइए।
GST opportunities are there any job opportunities for GST?
Okay. Well, Anand ji, well, the caller is actually intending to ask whether this GST, because of this GST implementation, are they going to create any employment because of this GST?
Additional employment.
Additional employment.
Yes, undoubtedly. You know, we have estimated after taking inputs from all the stakeholders and also the inputs that have come from ADB, World Bank, and renowned institutions which assess the growth of economy and GDP. And after introduction of GDP, our Indian economy is likely to grow by 2%. I mean, on account of GST, additionally 2% growth is expected.
Well, if you were to be talking about our Indian economy, on account of demonetization, it is already suffering at the moment, they say. And now does this GST will have any impact on that? You were saying that on this account of GST, Indian economy is going to grow by 2%. How is it?
Yeah, you see, that is again misconception, if I'm permitted to say. Due to demonetization, Indian economy has gone down. If you take today's, Times of India, it has been reported by ADP that our growth rate would be 7.4%, which is, we are far ahead of any Asian economy and, even China. We have our growth rate. And to tell you the fact, when I was looking after service tax, I was in Service Tax Commissionerate for 2 years. In fact, I was the one vociferously arguing with our Chief Commissioner, sir, after demonetization, don't expect the 30%, 25% growth. Because it's, I went to Chutneys, I went to Minerva, I went to theatre, less collections, less audience. So, revenue is likely to go down. But when I have seen my returns and, in fact, the revenue has shot up much more than what it used to be pre-demonetization.
Okay.
And the last, the return, I mean, that monthly technical report we say, Service Tax Commissionerate, which is no more in existence after June 30th.
Right.
Can you imagine our revenue collection for Hyderabad service tax used to be around 250, 350 maximum. 450 used to be 400, perhaps we have reached only in the month of March.
450 crores.
400 crores around.
Right.
In the month of June, for the month of June, I have got more than 500 crores revenue collection I'm talking about.
Okay.
So, what I'm trying to say, this demonetization, perhaps it would have affected certain segments. I'm nobody to deny that because it is on record. But overall, if you take Indian economy, our growth rate has really not come down and it's likely to go up. As today's newspaper, if you see 7.4%, and next year is expected to grow at 7.6%, and GST will add additionally another 2%. That's what I'm trying to say.
As that caller Anand was talking about, incidentally, your name too,
Employment.
Anand, the employment.
Yeah.
Well, that employment, well, if you were to be talking about the track record of the current government, the employment generation is quite low comparing with the earlier government. And also they say that they promised they're going to generate more employment, which is not being seen. But this GST, does this GST enhance the government to create any way more employment apart from this additional employment which would be coming just because of GST?
Absolutely. When I said the 2% increase in the GDP, what does it mean? I believe this that GDP that we are talking about in terms of percentage, it works out to, if I remember correctly, 167 lakh crores.
Right.
167 lakh crores, you take and add 2% to it, and that, you see, what is GDP? Is the total value of production, services of all the segments, agriculture, service sector, manufacturing, what not. How many jobs would have been created to add that 2%? Maybe 8 lakh crores of additional revenue income to various segments of economy. So, except perhaps some segments which, other day, to tell you the fact, the security service providers and manpower supply providers came in large number, around 400 of them came to a GST bond in protest against GST, stating that they are likely to lose employment because there was 3% increase of GST rate under GST, and the multinations like Google or Apple or to whom they are providing the services, they would not enhance their budget on account of this 3% increase. They will cut down the jobs, and security of the country or the the IT firm would be under threat. This is how they have, and they also have their own issues, like the payments won't come on time, and the 2 to 3 months and types, and but whereas the tax they have to pay by 5th of the succeeding month. And also they have one more issue which I just wanted to share, the tax is collected on the entire salary, including the statutory benefits like GPF and ESI and whatever other benefits which should accrue to the employee. So they were saying, why are you collecting the entire component? You collect only on service component, service charge. This is how they put it. So we did talk to them. We have really understood the issue, and we did. Of course, they were also saying, why are we making us to pay? Let the employer pay. I mean, the person who receives the services pay. Reverse charge, they were asking. Yes, reverse charge is available for proprietorship firms and partnership firm, but not to the private limited firm. So this is one segment which I have come across having an issue with the GST.
So don't you think this GST is only benefiting this private proprietors more? I mean, the private limited more than this employees, because most of the Indian employees are dependent on this private sector. So if is this GST is beneficial, as you already said that it is beneficial for this private sector. So because a private sector proprietor need not pay this, but whereas in the public sector they have to be paying.
No,
employer.
not in that sense. I said that reverse charge, meaning thereby, supposing you are let us say the employer, Google, and I am the service provider. Let us say I am providing the services of security guards. So if I am a proprietorship company and providing services, then what happens? I will not pay the service tax, though I am service provider. The service tax liability will be will rest on discharging the service tax liability will be on you. That is service receiver. That is what
service receiver.
So that's how. If I am a proprietorship firm or partnership firm, but if I am a private limited firm, then that benefit of reverse charge will not be with me, for the simple reason private limited company is more organized and they have the wherewithal and they can calculate the tax liability and they can afford to pay. Perhaps that was the logic behind reverse charge. So they wanted for private limited company also this benefit to be extended of reverse. Then we have said that's not possible, but still we have said, you see, it is just 20 days old. When they met us, it was perhaps 15 days old. We have said, don't worry, we will forward your representation. It is again GST Council, not even central government alone. It is a GST Council consisting of 2/3 weightage of for the states and 1/3 to central government, discuss and decide what beneficial to the states and the center and for the nation as a whole.
Right, and we were talking about, I mean, those are, what are the services that are exempted under this GST? We
Yeah.
were talking, and meanwhile we got that call. So please brief us before we run out of time.
Oh yes, there's exports. You are talking about exports.
Yeah.
Exports I have already dwelt on.
No,
That's
I'm not talking about the exports.
Exempted.
Exempted services.
Yeah, yeah.
Those services that are exempted under this GST.
Yeah, yeah. As far as exempted goods are concerned, I mentioned that agricultural products, and then you know, educational sector, so education institutions per se.
Right.
Not again coaching and commercial institutes.
Okay.
And healthcare.
You're talking about commercial institutes.
Yeah.
What are
Coaching,
these commercial institutes like?
coaching and commercial institutes like civil service. See, I have also studied in a couple of civil service coaching
So
institutes.
how do you call it as a commercial institute? It is of academics, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'll just if you permit me another minute.
Yeah.
You know, it is commercial in the sense. See, when I joined Rao's IRS in 1990, they wanted me to pay 12,000 rupees.
Yeah.
My father found it so difficult to raise the 12,000 rupees, being a below middle class, and I was an officer, of course, Government of India.
Sure.
And then I joined other institutes. I don't want to name. I don't mean that they were commercially, they were exploiting or exploited me. Right. After all, I got benefited by way of whatever training I have, coaching I have, taken from them. Now, but they do charge. And they do operate on commercial lines, not those institutes like for weaker sections. The government runs certain institutes.
Right.
That will not be taxed. That element. Government runs institution and government funded. Perhaps that they may not come under the purview, but otherwise, as I just educational.
Well, sorry to interrupt you, Anandji. On that note, let us go across to this caller, and we have this caller Venkat from Bhimavaram, who is online and he wants to pose a question to you. Yeah, Anandji, Venkatji, good afternoon.
Very good afternoon, Mr. Kampan. How are you? This is Venkat, and good afternoon to Mr. Anand also.
Yeah, good afternoon. So, what is your query? Ask.
Yeah, I would like to know from Mr. Anand.
Yeah.
First of all, thanks for organizing such a wonderful program in the month of July, because next month onwards, whatever it is, the GST is applicable virtually from next 1st onwards.
Right.
So it started. Mr. Anand,
Yeah.
good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I would like to know what GST now says to a salaried employee. Suppose somebody is drawing, say, 50,000 rupees from an organization, and the employees are not GST enabled because they are only salaried person. How this is going to affect them? Do they have to pay the GST, or the management will cut the GST from the employee? What is this? Can you please kindly explain that to me?
Yes, sure. If you are directly employed, let us say by Apple or Amazon or any other institute for that matter, you don't come under tax net. And in fact, if your services were being availed through another agency,
Hello?
to whomsoever is the employer, then only GST will be levied. Otherwise, if you are directly employed by any private sector or government officials whose services government avails on par level playing field, there is no GST. There is no GST.
So, those employees, they don't require to fear on that.
Not at all.
No, Mr. Anand. We need not pay, but the management has to pay that amount, any tax on the whatever amount they are incurring or whatever. What
Not
is that
at all.
actually?
Not at all. Not at all.
So, even management need not pay. This is
Okay.
This is an indirect tax. Mr. Venkat, this is an indirect tax. You see, the tax component which would be deducted from source would be paid to the income tax. That's the income. Income tax.
Okay.
But this is
and one more small thing, Mr. Anand. What is this composite scheme which they are offering to employees? What is that actually, or small time business people? There is, I heard the composite scheme where you can declare 50% of the income and then remain only 50% they'll be charging tax. What is this actually?
Yeah, the composition. Scheme. Composite scheme. You're right. Composite scheme is nothing but in the earlier VAT regime, turnover tax used to be levied. Like yes, if your turnover is below 75 lakhs, you are entitled to opt for what is known as composite scheme, under which you are required to pay a nominal 1%, 2% or 2.5% depending on your business, and the benefit is that you have no need to upload each invoice, each transaction, and you have no need to file your returns every month. You have to file once in a quarter. No further questions are asked so long you are under 75 lakhs. But there is a condition, that is you will not be entitled to avail input tax credit, which is the heart of this entire scheme of GST. You would not be entitled to avail input tax credit, that is tax suffered inputs on which you cannot avail credit, nor
service provider will not give us the input tax benefit
under composite scheme, and also the tax which you are paying 1% or 2% or whatever, you will not be allowed to collect from the customer.
Oh.
Yes, that's how it operates.
And last and third question, if you have time, Mr. Kampan, do you have time? Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, you may put forward, Venkat.
Yeah, Mr. Anand.
Yeah.
Now the hotel industry, based on the turnover of 20 lakhs and the slab system, all Taj Mahal hotels and Kamath hotels and Minervas, and they are charging 18% of the GST now.
Yeah,
now,
you're right.
my thing is, across the country, not just confined to Hyderabad, Telangana, Andhra, or whatever it is, there are so many curry points on the roadside. The roads belongs to the people because we are paying tax for the roads. And these curry points are occupying the roads. And they are making at least 10 to 15,000 rupees business per day. That is close to about 5 lakhs per month. That is about 60 lakhs per annum. They are doing this curry points they are doing.
Yeah.
They are neither collecting any money nor paying anything. How this is allowed scot-free like this? Any checks and dams should be done for this one, which is also not good for the health of the public. What's your advice on that?
You have raised certain questions which may not pertain to taxmen, I mean like me, who's here in the studio, but as far as GST is concerned,
30-40 lakhs,
Right.
they should be brought under the tax this thing now?
yeah, I'm coming to that point. As far as the turnover is concerned, if it goes beyond 20 lakhs, they are liable to pay tax. They are liable to pay, whether they operate from a shed, whether they operate, in the open space, wherever, whatever. Even for your kind information, even there is no profit also. Even you are supplying idli dosha free of cost also. There is no concept of profit in under GST. They are liable to pay tax. And as far as their operations on the road and all that, I think GHMC is the agency which should look into this, and I'm sure that you have given invaluable inputs to income tax as well as GHMC,
So
and
he
to
brought
me also. We will certainly but anyway, it's not tax terrorism. It's by no stretch of imagination. We will certainly look into that.
Mr. Kampan, have a wonderful afternoon, both of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Venkat.
Yeah.
Well, he was talking about that, and I wanted to ask you one more question before we wind up this discussion.
You're most welcome.
So, what about the people, artists, who are rendering their services, who are selling their art? For instance, be it a film star, be it a voiceover artist, singer, when they are selling that art, that particular art, somehow earning more than this, 20 lakhs, should they be registering under this GST or shouldn't they be?
Absolutely. Whomsoever is providing whatever service, except those services which I mentioned exempted,
Okay.
they are required to get registered. And what we have done as far as film industry is concerned, the liability rests on the producer, meaning thereby for an artist, if producer is paying, let us say 20 crores, Bahubali, let us say.
Right.
Kindly don't take offense of it. I just, Bahubali is there and everybody's.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is a famous
mega
movie
hit
at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 20 crores on which the producer should pay whatever the artist is required to pay, the service tax. And cameraman, stunt master, dance master, whatever payment he is making, the artist will not pay. Tax deduction at source, the producer will pay. But producer, as I mentioned earlier, will get the benefit of what is known as input tax credit, at the time of he discharging his liability on that movie which he has produced, he will set off that what tax suffered element
Right.
and pay tax on the value addition.
So it will be the producer who would be paying for that, and it is not the
Absolutely.
artist who would be paying for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for that, Anand, Additional Commissioner of Services Tax, and thanks for your time and thanks for joining us. And we've discussed a lot, and we need to discuss plenty more, but time is not permitting us. So thank you on that note. Pleasure.
Thank you
meeting
so much for inviting me into your studio. So much.
So that's all we have in this discussion. GST with the additional on a discussion on this GST with the Additional Commissioner of Service Tax, P. Anand Kumar, who is the GST Additional Commissioner here in Hyderabad. And thank you, viewers. Thanks for joining us.